The venomous snake bit and killed the only old hen in my family. My younger brother shouted that he wanted stewed chicken, and Grandma said snake wine was a good thing, afraid they would be poisoned. I secretly buried the dead chicken and the snake wine. When Grandma saw that her precious snake wine was gone, she struck me on the back with a fire poker and cursed me as a home-stealing thief who bites the hand that feeds her. My younger brother began rolling around on the ground, crying and shouting for chicken. My parents were furious and beat me with fists and kicks. I was beaten until one of my legs was crippled, and I could no longer do any heavy labor. Then they sold me for 5,000 yuan to a fool in the mountains to be his wife. From then on, I had one child after another, and in the end, I died in childbirth on the bed. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my younger brother was shouting about wanting to eat the dead chicken. This time, I didn't meddle any further. I watched as Grandma put the snake into the medicinal liquor bottle and stewed the chicken. Seeing Grandma casually deal with the native chicken bitten to death by the snake and toss it into the stew pot, I rubbed my eyes to clear my head, and only then did I realize that I had been reborn. My legs were not yet disabled, and I didn't walk with a limp. I wasn't out of my mind, talking to myself all day long, nor was I locked in that pitch-dark, dilapidated mountain cave, endlessly giving birth. My limbs were nimble and my mind was clear. I was about as healthy a person as one could be. As the dead chicken slowly cooked through, an overbearing aroma spread throughout the whole yard. The front door was opened, and my parents, who had been out playing mahjong all day, came back rubbing their necks. Wang Zhaodi, didn't you see your mom and me come back? Are you asking for a beating again? Hurry up and pour us some water. I woke up with a start and hurried to pour the water. I was sure that if I were any slower, my dad's whip would land on me. After handing over the water, Grandma called me over again to light the fire, set the table, and bring out the food. I was spinning around busily in the kitchen, and by the time I finally finished and came over, everyone else was already eating. A huge basin of home-raised chicken, so rich it was glistening with fat and so fragrant it made your mouth water, was placed right in front of Dad and my eldest younger brother. Grandma picked the pitch black chicken feet and 2 chicken drumsticks and put them into my eldest younger brother's bowl. Here, good grandson, your favorite chicken feet, and eat 2 more drumsticks. The more you eat, the bigger and stronger you'll grow. Watching my younger brother eat with such relish, I kept silent. That old hen had died of poisoning after being bitten on the foot by a silver-ringed snake. After Dad had piled his own bowl high with meat, he started serving my mother. Eat more, that way your milk will be good, and you'll be able to raise our little son to be chubby and healthy. I silently chewed a couple mouthfuls of pickled vegetables, not daring to touch the chicken in the big bowl at all. Stop eating, go, get me 2 heads of garlic and a bottle of baijiu. Dad, his mouth glistening with grease, ordered me without even looking up. I immediately put down my bowl and chopsticks and went to the kitchen to fetch the items. After getting the food, I hesitated for a moment and then picked up a spoon as well. Dad, here, this is for you. Chicken soup over rice is probably going to be insanely delicious. I handed him the spoon. You sure do know how to eat. Don't even think about this meat. The rest is all being saved for your little brother. If I catch you sneaking a bite, I'll beat you to death. Come here, you've been good today, so I'll treat you to a chicken tail. Looking at the chicken but in the bowl, I took a big mouthful of rice and secretly hid it at the bottom of the bowl. What the hell are you talking about? You don't even know this. She kept saying the chicken and the snake were poisonous and even wanted to throw it away. If I hadn't caught her in time and beaten her, do you think she'd be this obedient now? Grandma said angrily. Dad paused with the wine in his hand and looked at Grandma. Mom, didn't you say this was a flower snake and wasn't poisonous at all? Grandma gnawed on the chicken, unconcerned. It looked like a flower snake to me. Zhaodi kept stubbornly arguing, saying something about a golden ring and a silver ring. What's the big deal about rings? We're eating cooked chicken, not raw. Put your heart back in your stomach and eat in peace. Dad nodded in strong agreement as well. Exactly, high temperatures kill viruses. This Zhaodi got off too lightly. She's always finding trouble for me every day. Mom wiped her greasy hands twice on her clothes, her eyes drifting toward me. Useless good-for-nothing who brings nothing but loss. If I hadn't been desperate for a son back then, I'd have drowned her in a urine barrel ages ago. How could she still be alive now? Nothing but a waste of food. The angrier Dad thought, the more furious he became. With a smack, he slammed his chopsticks onto the table. Stop eating, how dare you eat? Get over there and change your little brother's diapers, useless thing. I quickly put down my bowl and chopsticks and walked into the house. In my previous life, before my leg was broken, I often acted against my younger brother Wang Yaozu on purpose just to get my parents to notice me. deliberately making them angry. Since I was little, I never understood why my name was Wang Zhaodi, while his was Wang Yaozu. Why was I never even full, while Wang Yaozu had so many snacks they were practically going moldy? Why is it that even though I'm clearly the oldest, all my clothes are made from old cast-offs that adults no longer wanted, while Wang Yaozu often gets to wear new clothes? Not understanding what favoring sons over daughters meant, I only wanted to get even the slightest bit of warmth and affection. Now, having already died once, I fully understand that all those vicious words were the voice of their true feelings. In their eyes, I was nothing but a worthless money-losing burden. Since that's the case, I won't meddle any further. You can go ahead and eat as much of this chicken bitten to death by a venomous snake as you want. At the very least, you can die with a full stomach. After dinner, night deepened, the doors and windows in the room were wide open, but the breathing grew heavier with each breath. Grandma kept pounding her chest from time to time, letting out painful cries of ouch, ouch. Wang Yaozu tossed and turned, and it was as if a broken blower had been stuck in his chest. Whirring and wheezing, my mom gasped for air, then nudged him and said, "It's the middle of the night. Why aren't you sleeping? What are you doing here?" Feeling Wang Yaozu's icy cold arm, my mom finally sensed something was wrong. When she turned on the light, she saw his lips had turned blue. He was clutching his stomach, moaning in discomfort. At that moment, the whole house was thrown into chaos. My mom hurriedly shook my dad awake. Seeing that he also looked like he was in pain, she suddenly realized that maybe everyone in the family had eaten something bad. Grandma tiptoed on her small feet and knocked on the neighbor's front gate, and only after much pleading did she manage to borrow a small truck. My mom and I went to great lengths to lift my dad and Wang Yaozu onto the truck. The whole family rushed off to the hospital in a flurry like that. After the hospital doctor asked about the symptoms, he also asked what they had eaten for dinner. My mom answered anxiously, saying we hadn't eaten anything unusual, just what we usually ate. "Doctor, we ate the same as usual today. It was just an old hen raised at home. Was it too greasy?" "My grandma and I ate it too, so why don't our stomachs hurt?" My mom completely ignored the fact that she was gasping after saying just a couple of sentences, thinking it was only because she was tired from the long journey. The doctor nodded, indicating that this could indeed be the cause, but for safety's sake he still issued a lab test order. Just as everyone was breathing a sigh of relief, they saw that the father and son, who were receiving 4 fluids, were getting worse and worse. Before Grandma could call the doctor again, the doctor was already hurrying over. Snake venom was detected in the patient's body. How could you not mention something as serious as a snake bite? Aren't you wasting precious rescue time? My mother looked blank and said, "She wasn't bitten by a snake, doctor. Could there have been a mistake?" "Impossible. Think about it again, doctor. She really wasn't bitten. We just ate a chicken that had been bitten to death by a snake. That's more like it. If he'd really been bitten, he probably wouldn't have made it to now, but you waited far too long." Mom looked utterly incredulous. "So even eating the chicken that got bitten won't do? We cooked it. Heat can kill the poison." The doctor nodded. "That's true. High heat can kill toxins. It may be that it wasn't cooked long enough. It's also possible that circulation at the bite site was poor, causing the toxins to remain too concentrated. Yes, I was afraid it would get too mushy and not taste good, so I didn't stew it for too long. The chicken died after its paw was bitten. No wonder it was still pitch black after cooking." Grandma suddenly interjected, "Hey, if you'd said so clearly earlier, that would have been fine, but now the patient's toxin has already spread, so transferring hospitals is simply unrealistic. Our hospital only has 1 vial of serum for this toxin left. Save the child or save the adult. The family should think it over carefully. It's all my fault. I gave the chicken feet to Yaozu. It's all my fault." At that moment, Grandma beat her chest and stomped her feet in anguish, regretting it so much she wished she could turn back time. "Save me first, Mom. Save me first. You can have as many grandsons as you want later. You only have 1 biological son." Grandma froze for a moment, then immediately looked up and glanced at my mom. Before quickly coming to her senses, tiptoeing on little feet, I hurriedly scampered off toward the doctor's office. My mom looked at my dad, then at Wang Yaozu, whose face had turned a sickly bluish green. Her mouth opened and then closed again. She lowered her head and held the child in her arms even tighter, then suddenly burst into tears and curses. "You damn thing, why isn't the poisoned one, you worthless good for nothing? Even if you died, I wouldn't feel sorry for you." Mom was in so much pain that she kicked the back of my knee, then he slapped my face with his palm, and then pounded my back with his fists as if trying to beat me to death. Finally, when his hands got tired, he started kicking me over and over with his foot. After Grandma came out of the doctor's office, she too lunged at me, clutching my hair tightly and not letting me dodge even a little. "It's all your fault. If you hadn't let your dad eat that poison soup-soaked rice, would he be like this? Just you wait, I'll beat you to death." Yes, it was her who killed Yaozu, my poor Yaozu. I knelt on the ground, silently enduring everything. It felt utterly absurd in my heart. They knew the chicken was poisoned, yet they ate it greedily, and now they're blaming me. Wang Yaozu wasn't beyond saving either, but Grandma chose to give the medicine to my father instead. In the end, his death is also blamed on me. Utterly ridiculous. Looking at Wang Yaozu lying on the hospital bed, already without a breath, I wondered whether he had heard his father's words about giving up on him even at the very last moment before death. He still firmly believed that he was the most important boy in the family, and that Mom and Dad would definitely save him. Wang Yaozu was gone. My dad became a paralyzed man who could only lie in bed. A dead grandson is worthless. With Grandma's decree that those who die violently cannot enter the family grave, he was hastily buried on the back hill. Looking at the human bones scattered everywhere, dug up and gnawed on by wild beasts, I thought, even a grandson is just like this at home. My mother held my little brother and slowly sorted through Wang Yaozu's belongings. "Guangzong, you must grow up well. I think Yaozu was deliberately killed by that money-losing wench. I've kept all your brother's clothes for you. Mom has. She's not worthy of wearing such fine fabric. Your brother is dead. Your dad is paralyzed. From now on, our family is all relying on you." My poor Guangzong. Although my dad was paralyzed, he was still a man after all. One slap sent my mom's face swelling up hugely. "You filthy bitch. How dare you curse me as a cripple? I'm not dead yet." The angrier he got, the more he smashed everything on the bedside table to pieces. At that moment, Grandma came over holding her precious jar of medicinal liquor, carefully poured a small bowl, and handed it to my dad. "De Chong, drink up quickly. This is something good that Mom collected bit by bit. After you finish this jar, you should be completely healed." Inside the large glass jar, the venomous snakes looked ferocious, and floating in the liquor were various ants, centipedes, and unfamiliar herbs. "You little jinx, from now on, pour a small bowl for your dad after every meal. If you delay, don't blame me for skinning you alive." I glanced at the bottle, touched my still bruised and swollen face, and lowered my head. I thought that once my grandma came back, she would throw away the medicinal liquor. After all the turmoil in our family was caused by this snake. The doctor repeatedly stressed that this snake's venom was extremely potent, and it was best not to come into contact with it again. Unexpectedly, my grandma not only didn't throw it away, but even soaked it in medicinal liquor for my dad to drink. I looked at the medicinal liquor jar, which was already murky to begin with. Now it had turned even darker, likely because the snake venom had been continuously seeping into it. After I finished clearing the bowls and chopsticks after dinner, I was still late and got slapped hard by my dad, so hard that stars flashed before my eyes. "Pour me some wine now." A big bowl. How am I ever supposed to get better with those tiny little bowls? "You just can't stand to see me do well. I'm your dad. I'll be your dad until the day I die. You worthless girl, and you still think you can defy me." I had no choice but to pour him a large bowl of the pitch-black medicinal wine from the glass jar. Watching him close his eyes and gulp down those tiny insect corpses, his originally pale face now faintly revealed a bleak, deathly pallor. Now Dad's temper was even worse. He cursed me endlessly as a bringer of misfortune, as if that would let him blame everything he had suffered on me. Whenever Grandma and Mom heard the abuse, they would occasionally join in as well, so they wouldn't have to bear the guilt in their consciences. The family's misfortune was caused by me, and Wang Yaozu's death was caused by me too. It seems that as long as I exist, I'm a mistake. At night, my little brother cried non-stop. My mom held him and slowly paced around the courtyard, trying to soothe him, but it had no effect at all. He still bawled his eyes out. This worried my mom terribly. In our family, he was the only remaining heir. She called out to my grandma anxiously, asking, "What should we do? Should we take him to the hospital and have a doctor take a look?" My grandma touched Guangzong's forehead. "It's fine. When a child has a fever, just rub him down with alcohol." After saying that, she went into the house, poured a bowl of medicinal liquor, warmed it by rubbing it in her hands, and began applying it all over the baby's body. "This is good stuff. Put more on my dear grandson. He'll grow up strong," my grandma said as she kept rubbing it on over and over again. I stood by silently, watching without saying a word. Before long, the child's crying grew weaker and weaker, and gradually he stopped crying. However, purple welts began to appear all over his body, and the little body that had been burning red was now turning an eerie, ghastly white. Like a ghost baby from a horror movie. Only then did my mother finally grow scared, and she touched the purple welts as her voice trembled. "Mother-in-law, how about we hurry and take him to the hospital?" Suddenly, my grandma, like a cat having its fur blown up, shouted sharply, "No hospital, you absolutely can't go to the hospital. Once you go, you won't come back. Yaozu died in the hospital, and the child's father was left paralyzed in the hospital too. We can't go to the hospital." Amid my grandmother's tearful wailing, the baby's skin turned even more bluish-purple, and his breathing grew weaker and weaker. No matter what, he was an innocent infant, so I spoke up to persuade her. "Mom, we should still take him to the hospital and have him checked. The hospital has doctors and life-saving medicine. It's better than just toughing it out at home." My mom seemed to finally come to her senses. "Right, to the hospital. The hospital has life-saving medicine." As soon as she finished speaking, she snatched the child away and staggered out the door. I followed her out, with Grandma's wailing and making a scene in the courtyard behind us. By the time we finally made it to the hospital after all that trouble, the child was already taking in more breaths than he could let out. When the doctor came out of the emergency room, my mother rushed forward anxiously. "Doctor, where is my son? How is he?" The doctor removed his mask, his face filled with sorrow, and said, "I'm sorry for your loss. The child was brought in too late and has already missed the optimal window for resuscitation." My mother refused to believe this outcome, clutching tightly at the doctor's sleeve. "Aren't you a doctor? Please save him. He's still so young. He just had a slight fever. How could he not be saved?" "I'm sorry. What ultimately caused the child's death was alcohol poisoning, and multiple highly toxic substances were found mixed in the child's blood. Not to mention a child, even an adult would have a hard time surviving. Please accept my condolences." My mother was in a daze, muttering to herself, "Alcohol poisoning, mixed toxins, medicinal wine. It must have been the medicinal wine." Suddenly, my mother fixed her bloodshot, hate-filled eyes on me. "Why didn't you speak up sooner to remind me to bring your brother to the hospital? Did you do it on purpose? First, you caused Yaozu's death, and now Guangzong. How can your heart be so cruel?" I had no intention of defending myself. She probably just needed someone she could hate without any pressure. It was Grandma who applied the medicinal wine to the child, and it was also Grandma who stopped us from taking him to the hospital. I watched as Mom returned home in a daze, deeply trapped in grief and unable to free herself. Seeing us return, Grandma hurriedly stepped forward and asked, "Where is Guangzong? Where is my precious Guangzong?" My mother gave a bitter smile and said, "He's dead. They're all dead, poisoned by your precious medicinal wine." With that, she rushed into the house. As soon as she entered, she threw herself into my father's arms, wailing loudly. She cried for her 2 sons who were already gone, for her husband who was bedridden, and finally, for her own miserable life. But as she wept, my mother sensed something was off. In the past, whenever she mentioned the word cripple, my father would have cursed and shouted. Today, however, there was no sound at all, an eerie silence. Trembling, my mother reached out and touched my father's back, only to find it cold to the touch. Turning over, my father's ashen face was revealed. The blood that had flowed from his eyes, nose, and mouth had long since dried, leaving behind streaks of bloodstains. Deafening cries filled the entire house, and boundless grief spread through the air. Looking up at my heartbroken mother and grandmother, the doctor's words flashed through my mind. Such a potent mix of toxins would be too much even for an adult to survive. The fierce wind rustled the plain white cloth in the morning hall, scattering the paper money on the ground into the air. I knelt before the huge coffin, indifferently burning gold ingots, while my ears were filled with heart-rending wails. Mom clutched her chest with one hand and gripped the edge of the coffin tightly with the other, sobbing uncontrollably, wishing she could go with him. She wasn't crying because she had lost someone she loved deeply, but because she had suddenly become a widow. Grandma, meanwhile, mingled in the crowd, sorrowfully recounting her own misfortunes. Losing her husband early in life, then in her old age suffering one blow after another with the deaths of her grandson and her son. "I was so foolish, so foolish. How could I have let her take the child to the hospital? That hospital is a place that devours people. It killed 2 grandsons, and then brought back baleful energy, killing my son too," she cried in a heartrending way. "If the grandsons are gone, we can have more, but I only have this one precious son. How am I supposed to go on living?" As she spoke, Grandma shot another vicious glare at my mother and me. Seeing this, the villagers secretly shook their heads. Though they had much to say, they dared not speak up. and could only whisper among themselves, "What evil deeds has this Wang family done? 3 men in the family have died one after another, such a sin, such a sin." After the funeral, the house instantly fell silent, so quiet it was hard to breathe. My grandmother, who used to be able to tiptoe to the village entrance and repeatedly lament, "I was so foolish, truly, accidentally slipped outside and now can no longer get out of bed at all." Thus, the calm and uneventful days were shattered on a day of pouring rain. 2 figures, one tall and one short, one plump and one thin, clad in black plastic raincoats, knocked on the door of my house. The aunt, thin as a bamboo pole, seemed as familiar with the place as if it were her own home. The short, fat man, so plump he seemed capable of leaking a bucket of grease, wore black sunglasses, his white cane tapping as if probing for something. In reality, he quickly entered Grandma's room with the woman's support, and the door slammed shut with a bang. That night was filled with the woman's heart-wrenching screams. I hid in the woodshed, covering my ears tightly, not daring to make a sound. The next day, I discovered that all the windows in my mother's room had been sealed shut, and the door was tightly closed. I cautiously approached and peered through the crack in the door. It was pitch black inside, and I couldn't make out anything clearly. Suddenly, a hand grabbed my shoulder and flung me outward. I stumbled and fell to the ground, looking up in a daze at the person before me. Grandma's wrinkled face was smeared with some unknown black substance, her eyes fixed on the door with a crazed intensity, as if she could see everything inside. "Do not disturb your father's spirit, he is bestowing blessings upon your mother and child. Ahaha, our old Wang family is about to have another male descendant." Terrified, I dragged myself backward on the ground, staring at Grandma in disbelief. "Grandma, the dead cannot come back to life." Grandma suddenly took 2 steps forward and slapped me hard across the face. "Your father isn't dead, your father isn't dead at all, he's going to give me a big grandson. If you curse your father again, I'll beat you to death, you worthless girl." I covered my swollen, reddened face and stared blankly at the fat man, bare-chested, revealing his belly with layers of fat, struggling to pull up his pants with both hands as he walked out of my mother's room. Grandma quickly grabbed her cane and hurried over, her face filled with anxiety as she asked, "Master, did it work? Did you grant us a child?" "It's not that easy. Do you think granting a child is like buying a radish? Just hand it over when you ask. Having your ghost son possess me to grant a child is already defying fate, and you want it to succeed on the first try. You old woman, don't be ungrateful." The master said impatiently, "Yes, yes, yes, you're absolutely right, master, I was being greedy. Thank you for your hard work. Good that you know." I peeked through the door and saw a pair of hands covered in bloodstains hanging down from the bed, with bruises all over the arms. It scared me so much that I turned my face away, not daring to look again. Suddenly, another slap landed on my head, snapping me back to reality. "What are you still standing there for? Go fetch some water for your mother to wash up. If you dare let your mother escape, I'll sell you off to the mountains to get your father a new wife." After saying this, Grandma followed the master into the living room. When I brought hot water to wash my mother's face, she had already sat up, completely naked, clutching the blanket on the bed. "Mom, let me wipe you down." My voice seemed to startle her. She crawled toward me on all fours, but the iron chain on her foot restricted her movement, nearly causing her to fall off the bed. "They are not human, they are demons. Xiaodi, you're all I have left. Save me." My mother's face was filled with immense terror, as if I were her last lifeline. I set the basin on the ground and pried her fingers off my arm one by one. Without saying a word, I turned and walked out. "Wang Xiaodi, you have no conscience. I am your mother, you heartless wretch. I am your mother, a whole family of ungrateful beasts. You all deserve to die. Xiaodi, Mom was wrong. I beg you to save me. I'll kneel and kowtow to you, please. I beg you, Xiaodi," tears streaming down my face. I walked out without looking back. At that moment, it felt as if I had returned to the cave from my past life, the cave where I had given birth to child after child, only to die inside it in the end. The feeling of pitch black, bone-chilling cold crept over me once more, seeping deep into my bones with an icy chill. I carved the word, home, on the cave wall with my fingernails, one bloody stroke after another. But where is my home? While enduring inhuman abuse, I cried out for my mother over and over again. But where was she? If my parents hadn't sold me into the mountains to bring good luck to my younger brother, how could my life have been so tragic? Such piercing cries filled every night that followed. I too, amidst such voices, relived the darkness of my past life over and over again. Finally, one day, that door opened. A woman, emaciated and deformed, with deeply sunken cheekbones and only her belly round and full, emerged, carefully supported by my grandmother. Be careful, watch. The threshold, this is my precious grandson. The woman's numb eyes gazed at the outside world. At that moment, I thought I saw a tear fall from her eye, yet her expression was too calm, making me think it was just my imagination. Master, you're sure it's a boy in this woman's belly, right? My grandmother looked at the master with anticipation. Oh, my dear old sister, if the master says it's a boy, then it's definitely a boy. Just put your heart at ease, Auntie Bamboo Pole said, waving her floral handkerchief. Thank you, master, you are truly a living bodhisattva. Grandma knelt down and kowtowed to the master. Don't celebrate too soon, keeping this boy safe won't be easy. You have offended the snake immortal, so he has taken away all the men in your family. This child was hidden from him by my divine insight, and I protected the child with my spiritual energy. But now the pregnancy is too far along, and I can no longer protect him. The master tapped his blind cane on the ground repeatedly. Upon hearing this, my grandmother panicked instantly. Her legs went weak, and she was about to kneel again. Master, what should we do? You must protect my precious grandson. Elder sister, I believe the master told you this because there is a solution. Let's hear what the master has to say first. Aunt Bamboo Pole supported my grandmother, who looked at the master with hopeful eyes. The master pondered for a moment before speaking. There is a solution, but you will have to endure some physical suffering. Grandma strode forward and grabbed the master's sleeve. I'm an old woman with one foot in the grave. What do I have to fear? As long as my precious grandson is safe, I'll do anything. Actually, this snake spirit is attached to you, draining your vitality. That's why you suddenly became lame and have been feeling unwell lately. Upon hearing this, my grandma trembled all over and was about to kneel again. Master, please save me and my grandson. I have money, I'll give you whatever you want. Ah, gold and silver are mere worldly possessions. Let me first explain the solution to you, and then you can decide. Pile firewood in the courtyard and set it ablaze, then place a wooden barrel large enough for one person on top. I will find a way to invite the snake immortal to leave, and then steam away the een and evil energy from your body. That should do it. How can a person be steamed like this? Grandma replied, trembling with fear. Ah, dear lady, you don't understand. Only this fierce fire can drive away the filth clinging to you. Mom, I've heard that steaming like this is popular in the city now too. They call it a sauna. Lots of people go for it, so it must be fine. My grandmother looked at Aunt Bamboo Pole, then at my mother, and finally her gaze settled on the master. It's fine. If you don't believe me, forget it. The master angrily pried open my grandmother's hand, pulled his sleeve, and walked away. I'll try, master, you must save us. Grandma collapsed to the ground and shouted. A faint smile appeared on the master's plump, wrinkled face. Then get ready quickly, don't delay. In the blink of an eye, the day came to send off the snake immortal. The little courtyard was packed with people. Everyone in the village had come. As soon as they heard about sending off the snake immortal, they couldn't help coming to watch the excitement. Hey, I told you long ago, didn't I? The Wang family must have offended something. Otherwise how could all the males have died out? That's right, no wonder they all died from snake venom. It turns out they offended the snake immortal. By the way, did you see old Wang's daughter-in-law? She's frighteningly thin, but her belly is round and bulging. Who knows whose child it is? Shoo, stop talking. I heard that old Mrs. Wang had a master summoned to Jen's soul, and she's carrying a ghost fetus. What? A ghost fetus? How dreadful. She must be so desperate for a grandson that she's gone mad. That crazy old woman. Hey, why do you care so much? She's completely crazy now. I heard this time she's steaming people like buns. If you dare provoke her, watch out or she'll steam you too. Amidst everyone's whispers, the master, dressed in a yellow robe and holding a peachwood sword, twisted his plump body vigorously, making his large sleeves whistle through the air. With a loud shout, Grandma tremblingly climbed into the large steamer, muttering softly for Buddha's protection. In full view of everyone, the master threw the torch in his hand onto the pile of firewood. In an instant, the flames quickly spread among the firewood, and in the blink of an eye, a raging fire erupted. The towering flames illuminated Mother's face, her expression frenzied, her frail body forming a stark contrast with her enormous belly. Before long, cries of agony began to emerge from the steamer basket. It's hot, I'm burning up, let me out, let me out. Many villagers looked moved and pleaded on her behalf. Xiaoti's mother, that's enough, don't let anything really happen. my mother's bloodshot eyes fixed fiercely on the person who spoke, her voice hoarse. If you're not afraid of offending the snake immortal, then go ahead and save her. Upon hearing this, everyone took a fearful step back, and no one dared to bring it up again. Who wouldn't be afraid of ending up like the Wang family amidst the scorching flames? Screams and pleas grew louder and louder, then gradually fell silent. Could they be dead? There's not a sound at all. Goodness, that scream was terrifying. Look, I've got goosebumps all over my arms. It should be fine. The master said this is probably just fainting after the exorcism, right? Right, old Mrs. Wang has the fire-warding talisman the master gave her. Ordinary fire can't harm her. If she really can't pull through, then it's just her fate being too weak. Amidst the chatter, my mom told me to go back inside and fetch something. There was a click behind me, and I was locked inside the room. Peering through the crack in the door, I saw my mother take out that large jar of venomous snake medicinal wine and pour a big bowl for everyone. This is an exorcism medicinal wine specially prepared by the master. Today's ritual will inevitably leave everyone tainted with the yin energy of evil spirits. Watching everyone thank her and gulp down the poisonous wine, I shouted from inside the room not to drink it, but my voice was drowned out in the clamor. Mother's lips curved upward, revealing a huge smile, yet her eyes brimmed with tears. Shouty, come to mama. I slowly shuffled over and sat on the stool in front of her. Boundless fear enveloped me. Was it my turn to die? But I felt a warmth on the top of my head. Mom was gently stroking my hair. I saw Mom holding a wooden comb, slowly untangling my messy, straw-like hair. My eyes grew red. This was the first time in my life I had ever felt my mother's tenderness. Shouty, it's Mom. Who's sorry? I've been avoiding this for too long. I don't know how much longer I'll stay lucid, but you need to know that Mom loves you. You don't have to take your parents' surname. From now on, let your name be Xiangyang, Sunflower Xiangyang, forever bright and happy. Take this money and go with teacher's son to study at the high school in the city. Work hard and get into a good university, and you don't need to come back. Women should stand on their own. Forget everything here and go see the world outside. My heart tightened with bitterness, and I couldn't understand how my mother, who had always been a sharp-tongued shrew, could suddenly show me a moment of tenderness. Tears welled up in my eyes and streamed down my face as I walked step by step toward teacher's son at the door. Suddenly feeling empty inside, I turned to look back into the room. My mother smiled gently, slowly waving her hand, urging me to keep moving forward and not look back. That smile is forever etched in my heart. The cheers around me pulled me out of my memories. I was no longer the tragic Wang Zhaodi from the small mountain village, but Xiangyang, who had just finished the college entrance examination. Teacher's son handed me the flowers in her hand. Congratulations, Xiangyang. Teacher, can I go home and take a look now? Teacher's son let out a long sigh. Let's go. It's time to tell you everything. Let's find somewhere to sit. In the brightly lit cafe, sunlight fell on me, but it could not reach my heart. Ah, your mother was a woman of bitter fate too. I truly never imagined that after she entrusted you to me that day, she would set a fire and turn everything to ashes. Teacher's son's voice choked with emotion. I really didn't know she had planned this. Otherwise, I would definitely have tried to stop her. When I first came to your village to teach, everyone was very warm and welcoming, but during that time, I kept feeling that the villagers were looking at me strangely, like I was a fat piece of meat. Later, in the middle of the night, someone even broke into my room. Luckily, I shouted, and he was scared off. Teacher's son said with lingering fear. Everyone told me I must have been half asleep in the middle of the night, that such a thing couldn't possibly happen. I was terrified, and that's when your mother came to me. Only then did I realize this village was a den of thieves. Your mother, along with many other women, was abducted. The only difference is that after a period of madness, your mother's temperament changed completely, and she no longer remembered anything from before. That's why she was able to live a normal life with all of you. The other women were locked in the cellar, never seeing the light of day for the rest of their lives. I was slightly stunned. This explained many of the strange phenomena in the village. So many children had no mothers, and most of them were boys. If anyone asked where their mother was, the adults would just beat them a few more times until they stopped asking. After all, no one had one. Don't blame her. She hated these people too much. Your mother was a graduate student in nuclear submarine research in that era and should have had a bright future. But it was all ruined by these human traffickers. A perfectly normal person could only survive by going insane. What a sin. She drew up a plan. In the chaos, I would take you and escape the village. Once we got out of the mountains, I reported it to the police. The police responded quickly, and the villagers were all poisoned and couldn't even look after themselves, so there were no casualties. More than 120 victims were successfully rescued. They were all girls in the bloom of youth, but most of them were pregnant. There were no older women. Those damn traffickers said women over 30 couldn't bear healthy sons. Either they were sold into the mountains, or they were simply buried alive in the back hills. Tell me, are they even human? Teacher's son said through tears. I trembled all over. Never imagining things would turn out like this. The faces of the villagers flashed through my mind. Beneath their kind masks lay such ugly, twisted expressions. When I was little, an elderly neighbor gave me a red piece of candy, but before I could eat it, my grandmother snatched it away. I vaguely remember her saying something about a broken melon, that it wouldn't bring a grandson anymore. Now thinking back, I only feel the food in my stomach churning, making me want to vomit. Your mother left you a letter. Keep it safe. Take a look at this too. They've all been sentenced. Evil always meets its just end. Taking the phone and seeing the police announcement, I finally couldn't hold back my sobs. Justice is never late. A letter from Mom. I hope this letter finds you well. I believe Xiangyang has already finished the college entrance exams by now, and the results must be excellent. You are my daughter, after all. There's no way you could do poorly. I am so proud of you. However, I am sorry to say that I won't be able to stay by your side anymore. Mom has already missed too many important moments of yours, and there's no way to make up for it. The only thing I can do is send you far away from here. Back then, when I was pregnant with my third child, I ran away and called your grandparents, only to find out they had passed away long ago from longing and illness. I couldn't handle the shock and fainted on the spot. When I woke up, I was captured and brought back. That child, like the ones before, was also a daughter. They didn't even have a chance to open their eyes to see this world before they fell to their deaths right in front of me. Since then, I have never wanted to wake up again, wandering endlessly in a world of nothingness. When I was jolted awake once more, I saw you timidly watching me from the doorway. That gaze was intense and stubborn, no different from how I was back then. I hate myself so much. For all this time, I left you alone in this world to suffer. You're still young. You should go out and see the colorful world. If the future feels uncertain, why not fulfill Mom's dream by pursuing defense research and contributing your own strength to the country? You will become the most outstanding scientist. A woman must be strong. Remember, Xiangyang, Mom will always watch over you from the heavens. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My pregnant sister-in-law is at high risk for thrombosis. The doctor requires her to receive anticoagulant injections on schedule. My mother is worried that the medication might harm the fetus and advises my sister-in-law to stop taking it. I emphasize the dangers of discontinuing the medication and insist that my sister-in-law continue with the treatment. My sister-in-law gave birth to a baby boy, but it was discovered that the infant had severe jaundice and needed to be placed in an incubator. My mother blamed my sister-in-law day and night, saying it was because of the medication she took during pregnancy that the child was unwell. As a result, my sister-in-law fell into severe depression. I tried to comfort and console her, but with bloodshot eyes, she pushed me off a tall building in a fit of madness. You forced me to take the medicine, and now my child is suffering because of it. Opening my eyes again, my sister-in-law asked if I wanted to get an anticoagulant injection. I smiled faintly and showed her my mental health evaluation report. Let's go crazy together. You can't use medication, it will definitely harm the child. As a mother, you must always think more about your child. The doctors at the hospital are just trying to scam you for money. They can't be trusted. My mother's voice drifted through the room. My brother was sitting on the sofa playing video games. As if this matter had nothing to do with him, my sister-in-law held a syringe in her hand, her face filled with hesitation and uncertainty. Jingjing, you're well educated, and have read a lot. Do you think I should use this anticoagulant medication? I stared blankly at everything happening before me. It took me a while to realize that I had been reborn, back to when my sister-in-law was first diagnosed with high-risk thrombosis. The pain from falling from a high-rise building had yet to fade from my body. This time, I learned my lesson. I would never interfere in someone else's life again. I smiled slightly and said to my sister-in-law, "It's up to you. I can't be responsible for your life or the child's." My sister-in-law pursed her lips, then her eyes grew resolute. She threw the anticoagulant medication in her hand into the trash can. Then let's not use it. I am the mother. I must think of my child. As long as the child is well, what do I have to fear from enduring a little risk? Upon hearing my sister-in-law's words, my mother beamed with joy. She quickly brought a bowl of chicken soup over to my sister-in-law. All Medicine is somewhat toxic, only dietary therapy is the true cure. Drink this chicken soup, and I'll get you a turtle to stew into soup later. Oh, by the way, there are newly bought spare ribs in the fridge, I'll braise them for you in a bit. Sister-in-law took the chicken soup, a pair of eyes fell upon the layers of butter floating in the soup, she blew the butter away. My mother's voice rang out again, don't blow it away. You need to drink the butter too, the nutrients are all in the oil. The essence of an old hen is in this bowl of soup. Watching as my sister-in-law drank that bowl of soup, which was covered in a layer of oil, I merely curled my lips slightly and quietly returned to my room. The doctor clearly said she needs anticoagulant injections, but my sister-in-law refuses to get them. The doctor also clearly said she needs to control oil, salt, and fat intake. But my sister-in-law just won't listen to advice. What can I possibly do about it? Let those fats and purine seep into my sister-in-law's bone marrow, then let the risk of thrombosis for sister-in-law increase once again. What does that have to do with me? A pot of chicken soup, 1 bowl for sister-in-law, 1 bowl for mother, the remaining half pot is all for brother. I smelled the chicken soup and ate the leftover white steamed buns from lunch, which counted as a dinner, hearing the sound of bowls and chopsticks being placed in the sink outside. My mother called me out of the room at just the right moment. I don't know what you're doing holed up in your room all day. Your sister-in-law has already finished off the chicken soup. Your sister-in-law may look small, but her appetite is even bigger than your brother's. All right, my hands hurt, you wash the dishes. With that, I finished. My mom then left the kitchen. She was still holding 2 plates of fresh strawberries and cherries. She brought them over to my brother and sister-in-law. She said kindly to my brother and sister-in-law, eat them while they're fresh. I'll go buy more when you're done. My sister-in-law expressed her gratitude to my mom. My brother was used to being served like this by my mom. My mom picked through the plate, selected a small strawberry, walked back into the kitchen, and stuffed it into my mouth. Judging by your sister-in-law's enthusiasm, she'll definitely finish all those strawberries. I doubt they'll last until you're done washing them. Don't say your mom doesn't care about you. I saved 2 for you to taste. Strawberries these days are so expensive for some reason. Each one costs about 4 or 5 yuan. In my previous life, she often does this, clearly favoring my brother and his wife, yet always trying to win me over with her words, and I always felt sorry for her, knowing how hard it was for her to raise my brother and me all by herself. I tried to help her share the burden whenever I could, but in the end, I was pushed off a high rise by my sister-in-law. She was the first to step forward and give false testimony to the police, absolving my sister-in-law of blame. It was also her idea to demand compensation from the hospital, even going so far as to display my body at the hospital entrance for public viewing, to increase social pressure. And it was her, fearing my vengeful spirit, who specifically hired a sorcerer to suppress me in a dry well, wishing me eternal damnation. This is my own mother, more vicious than a stepmother. I calmly took the strawberry out of my mouth and threw it into the trash can. My mother frowned. What are you doing? I said expressionlessly. Allergic. My mother sneered. What a cheap life, allergic to strawberries, of all things. I didn't respond. She continued, all right, hurry up and wash the dishes, then transfer this month's salary to my card. I won't make a special trip to the bank later. Show me how to use that mobile banking app, so I won't have to remind you every month from now on. I still said nothing. My mother couldn't be bothered with me either and went back out to sit with my brother and sister-in-law. Behind me, their family was laughing and chatting happily. In front of me, a pile of grease and kitchen waste. I took a deep breath and smeared the grease from the dinner plate onto the refrigerator. This refrigerator, I bought it. I then poured out the oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar, splashing them all over the clean, polished floor. This floor, I mopped it this morning. I also found an unopened bottle of peanut oil and splashed it on the range hood, on the clean walls. This kitchen has never served me, so why should I keep it so clean? I made a mess of the kitchen, washed my hands, and calmly walked out. Then, I burst into laughter toward the family who had already finished the cherries and strawberries. The 3 of them were left bewildered. Brother, Jingjing, what's going on? Mom, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Sister-in-law, why are you so happy? Did you win the lottery? Covering my mouth, I smiled, picked up the teacup on the table, and threw it toward the television. I was afraid that with just one hit, the TV wouldn't be completely destroyed. I grabbed whatever was on the coffee table and threw it all out, until the TV started smoking. Only then did I stop. My mom and my brother instantly caught on and started cursing out loud. Xia Jingjing, are you crazy? I'm going to beat you to death, you good for nothing. How expensive is this TV? You actually smashed it. Xia Jingjing, pay up. If you don't pay, We won't let this go. Don't blame me for dragging you to the police station. Seeing my mom about to come over and hit me, I conveniently fainted on the spot. Before I fell, the medical report in my pocket also dropped to the ground. Xia Jingjing, playing dead won't work. You have to explain to me today why you're acting crazy. My mom and brother were still angry without knowing why. It was my observant sister-in-law who picked up my report, just as my mom and brother were about to start hitting and kicking me. My sister-in-law shouted, "Oh my God, Jingjing is sick, and it's a mental illness. In my previous life, my mom pretended to be delicate, weak, and pitiful, keep me in this house as a nanny. My brother pretends to be ignorant, pretends to be clueless, make me pay for this family. My sister-in-law pretends to be melancholic, pretends to be gloomy, forcing me to bear her negative emotions. In this life, I have learned this trick too. I'm going to pretend to be mentally ill. I won't do any household chores anymore. It will also increase the household chores in this home. I want them to know what it means to offend a mentally ill person." Mentally ill? How is that possible? Jingjing is so smart, highly educated, and a high-income elite. How could she possibly be mentally ill? My mother was the first to stand up and deny what my sister-in-law said. My brother immediately chimed in, "Exactly, she's so full of life. How could she possibly have a mental illness?" My sister-in-law directly handed the examination report with my name on it to my mom and brother. "Is this report real or fake? It can't be. It seems Jingjing really has been diagnosed with a mental illness." I lay on the ground for a full half hour. Only then did my mom and my brother somewhat reluctantly accept the diagnosis on this medical report. My sister-in-law didn't forget to glance at the kitchen I had left in a complete mess, her face turning purple with anger. "Mom, with Jingjing in this state, she definitely can't live with us anymore. Look at the kitchen, it's turned into a dump, and this TV cost nearly 10,000. My brother frowned and said, "This illness shouldn't be anything serious, right?" My mother also nodded and said, "Maybe it can be cured. Wan, don't worry too much. I'll take Jingjing to the hospital again tomorrow to have a look first." My sister-in-law quickly shook her head. "It's all written here in black and white. What more is there to see, Mom? Husband, we can't delay this. If Jingjing hurts me because of her mental illness, that's one thing, but what if she hurts the child? What would we do then?" My sister-in-law had no idea how much I had sacrificed for this family. In her eyes, I was just someone who paid the utility bills, occasionally bought groceries, and cleaned up from time to time, but my mother and my brother knew the truth all too well. The household chores of this home are mine. The mortgage and living expenses of this home are paid by me. All the negative emotions and grievances of this home are poured onto me. Without me, these household chores, of course, my pregnant sister-in-law doesn't have to do, so it's only my mom and my brother who have to bear the burden. Without me, the miscellaneous household expenses, of course, my pregnant sister-in-law doesn't have to bear. Then I can only leave it to my mom, who has no pension, and my brother, who has little income. My sister-in-law wants to drive me out of this house with just one sentence, but my mom and brother have probably already calculated in their minds 1,000 times that kicking me out wouldn't be worth it. My mom and brother took turns comforting my sister-in-law. "Jingjing is a girl, and I just can't feel at ease with her living outside. Don't worry just yet. Let's go to the hospital and have another look. Maybe it can be cured. It might just be a minor illness." My sister-in-law wasn't soothed by my brother's and my mother's words. Instead, her temper flared up. "I don't care." I was already uncomfortable living with an unmarried sister-in-law. Now Jingjing has this illness. You can't possibly plan to support Jingjing for the rest of your life. Xia Jiming, if you're going to prioritize your sister over me and our child, then let's get a divorce. There's nothing more to discuss. My mom and my brother tried to reason with my sister-in-law, all talking at once. No one even noticed that I had been lying on the floor for half an hour. I really couldn't bear the cold floor any longer, so I let out a couple of groans and struggled to get up. Mom, how did I end up lying on the floor?" I called out weakly. The three of them finally turned their attention to me. My mother was the first to step forward, handing me the report and asking, "Jingjing, is this true, a mental illness?" I feigned panic, quickly reaching out to snatch the report from her hands. I shook my head in denial, saying, "No, it's not, this isn't true. I don't have a mental illness. I wasn't fired. I didn't get lost. I remember everything. I can do anything. I can do it." I pretended to be mentally dazed, feigning physical exhaustion and staggering as I walked. I knelt before my mother. "Mom, the company doesn't want me anymore. I have nowhere to go. Please don't drive me away." I then turned to my brother. "Brother, you care for me the most. You definitely won't abandon me, right? I even tugged at my sister-in-law's skirt. When she saw me approaching her, her face turned pale with fright. Sister-in-law, it's settled, after the baby is born, I'll help you take care of the child. I don't want any maternity nurse fees or nanny fees. Look, I graduated from a prestigious university, so I'll definitely be able to tutor my nephew well in the future. The three of them had different expressions on their faces. Clearly, they thought I was seriously ill. At that moment, I picked up the fruit knife that had fallen on the floor and smiled brightly at my sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, apples are good for your health. Let me peel one for you. I picked up an apple and sliced it into pieces, one cut at a time. The apple pieces fell to the ground and were trampled into a mushy mess. I carefully picked them up and handed them to my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law was so frightened her eyes went wide, afraid that I, holding a knife, might do something to her. Xia Jiming, your sister is going to kill someone. Help, Xia Jiming, help, my sister-in-law screamed. My mother grabbed my hair, and my brother tried to snatch the knife from my hand. My hair hurts so much from my mother's pulling. I screamed and shouted, "Ah, it hurts, Mom, let go, I'm not crazy, I'm not sick, not at all." Seizing this moment of madness, I brandished the fruit knife wildly. I slashed my brother a few times, then I slashed my mother a few times. I saw the blood, saw my sister-in-law's body go stiff. I dropped the knife and started laughing foolishly. Before the three of them could react, I returned to my room. The moment the door lock clicked shut, the three outside finally snapped back to reality. The one who reacted the most, naturally, was my sister-in-law. She absolutely refuses to let me continue living in this house. If she dares to pick up a knife today, tomorrow she'll dare to take an axe and chop our heads off while we're asleep. Yes, I admit my sister-in-law used to be very good to us, but now we have to weigh the pros and cons, don't we? If you want to take care of Xia Jingjing, that's fine. Then I'll divorce Xia Jiming, and I'll just go and have the baby aborted myself. My sister-in-law's threat was quite effective. My mother and brother immediately compromised and began discussing how to arrange for me to live outside. My mother, that medical report is from 2 months ago. Just now, your sister said she was fired from her company. I'm afraid she doesn't have much money left. Should we still rent a place for her? My brother, there's no other way. If you just kick her out, she'll probably come knocking on our door every day and cause trouble for us. My mom couldn't bear to spend the money. Rent is so expensive these days. If we cover her rent, what about food and other expenses? Are we really going to support her for the rest of her life? My brother was upset. Why are you asking me? How would I know what to do? My sister-in-law said bluntly. Honestly, Mom, you've raised Jingjing all by yourself for so long, and you've done more than enough. Just because Xia Jingjing is sick now doesn't mean she should drag our whole family down. My mom sighed. But there's no way to just cut off the mother-child relationship, is there? My sister-in-law immediately said, why not, just sign a mother-child relationship termination agreement, and it's legally recognized. After saying that, my sister-in-law immediately went online to search for a template of the agreement. Then she sent it to my brother and my mother to read. After reading it, both of them were left feeling disheartened. It seems the only option is to sever ties. Jingjing's condition appears to be intermittent. We'll have a proper talk with her once she returns to normal. Over the years, she has earned a salary of several 100,000 yuan. That money can be considered repayment for raising her. Now, it's best to settle things cleanly. As my mother spoke, she asked my sister-in-law to prepare the agreement. The next day, while my brother and his wife went out for breakfast, my mother knocked on my door. She brought a glass of milk and a packaged bread roll in her hand. She tentatively called my name. I lazily lifted the blanket, turned my head, and responded with, Mom, get up and have something to eat. I have something to talk to you about. Oh, okay. By the time I got up and sat down at the table, before I could even start drinking my milk or eating my bread, my mother handed me a document. Jingjing, do you remember what happened last night? Last night, what happened last night? I pretended to be clueless. My mother sighed softly. You had an episode last night, hurting both me and your brother, and you really scared your sister-in-law. I was shocked. What? I had an episode? That can't be. The doctor said as long as I take my medicine properly, I won't have any crazy outbursts. No, Mom, you believe I can get better, right? I excitedly grabbed my mom's arm. It was also at this moment that I pretended to have just noticed the bold words written on the agreement and shouted out loud, severance of relationship agreement. Mom, you want to sever ties with me? My mom looked embarrassed. This was also forced by your sister-in-law, your brother, and I really had no choice. If we don't sever ties with you, your sister-in-law will divorce your brother, and she even threatened to abort the baby in her belly. I said sadly, Mom, are you and my brother afraid that I'll be a burden to you? Is that why you're being so cruel to me? My mother tried to explain further. Jingjing, I think what your sister-in-law said is quite right. In the future, when your little nephew is born, and with my poor health, I really don't have the extra capacity to support you anymore. You've been fired from the company and have no income. How are you going to afford medical treatment? Your mental state is unstable, and you can't really help out at home. Just look at the mess you made yesterday. I spent the whole night cleaning it up. Jingjing, have a heart for your mom, and for your brother and sister-in-law too. Looking at the knife wound on my mom's arm and the dark circles under her eyes, not only do I not feel sorry, but I actually feel a slight sense of vengeful satisfaction. I quietly watched my mother defend herself, no matter what she said. I just kept bringing up the mother-daughter bond and the sibling bond. I talked about all the sacrifices I had made for my brother over the years. I talked about all the sacrifices I had made for my mother over the years, say all the suffering I endured over the years because of my brother and mother. I did my best with my sister-in-law's dowry, my brother's wedding house, and my mother's medical expenses. How come when it's my turn to get sick, you all want to abandon me? I cry over my own misfortune, I grieve over the lack of my mother's love, I'm sad that I don't have an older brother to spoil me. By the end, my mom was already annoyed and decided to just lay it all out. Xia Jingjing, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. You have to sign this agreement with me now, whether you want to or not. All those years of your efforts were only what you owed me. I gave birth to you and raised you. How could you not be filial to me? Sign this now, then pack your things and get out immediately. Don't make me chase you out with a broom. Holding the agreement, I looked at my mother and asked calmly, today, I'm sick, and my brother and sister-in-law can heartlessly kick me out. What if one day you get sick too? How will my brother and sister-in-law treat you then? My mother choked up, her expression turning grim, but she quickly retorted, I've given so much for your brother, and he's filial, he would never abandon me. I sneered coldly, I hope my brother can live up to Mom's expectations. That brother of mine, he always seems hesitant and indecisive. Whenever something happens, he shrinks back. Actually, the most selfish and self-serving. He always manages to find his own little clique, and without saying a word, he can secure the greatest benefits. Before he got married, he consistently sided with my mother, doing everything he could to exploit me. After he got married, he aligned himself with my sister-in-law, determined to curry favor at the expense of both me and my mother. He never needs to say much, nor does he need to do much. Just be a transparent person, avoid taking on any responsibilities, and he can get everything he wants. This time, driving me out seemed to be arranged by my sister-in-law and my mother, but in reality, he silently allowed it. Just like in my previous life, when my nephew was born with severe jaundice, my mother blamed my sister-in-law for using medication, leading to her severe depression throughout the entire process. He witnessed it all firsthand and did nothing. Later, my sister-in-law pushed me off a high-rise building to my death. My mother covered up the crime for her, and my brother did nothing and said nothing, and in the end, all my savings are his, all my compensation is his too. Thinking that soon, my sister-in-law will be in critical condition due to a blood clot, I wonder what choices my mother and brother will make then. I signed the severance agreement. Under the notary office's verification, the agreement was confirmed to be genuine and valid. When my mother and I left the notary office, each holding a copy of the agreement, my mother said to me expressionlessly, once you've found a place to live, give me the address, I'll mail all your belongings to you. Your sister-in-law is in a special condition right now and probably doesn't dare to see you, so don't go back. I tugged at the corner of my mouth and said, no need, those things were all hand-me-downs from my sister-in-law that she didn't want anymore. I don't like them either. If Mom wants to throw them away, just go ahead. My mother curled her lip and said, fine, then that's settled. Don't contact us in the future either, if you die out there. It has nothing to do with us. I nodded, all right, we won't contact each other for the rest of our lives. With that, I finished. My mother and I walked off in opposite directions. From today onward, I am completely free, but my mother, my brother, and my sister-in-law might not be so fortunate. I have indeed left my previous company, but it wasn't a dismissal, it was a voluntary resignation, because from the moment I was reborn, I had been preparing to leave this home and this city. On the very night I received the mother-son severance agreement, I boarded a flight to a coastal city. I accepted a job at a publicly listed company, competitive salary with meals and accommodation provided, without annoying relatives. my life is free and peaceful, eat whatever you want, drink whatever you want, no longer do I have to think about how many mouths are waiting for me to feed at home, or how many people are waiting for me to offer them advice. If it weren't for a call from the courier station owner, I would have almost forgotten about my mom, my brother, and my sister-in-law. Jingjing, last month I delivered 361 packages to your home, including 10 large items, 105 medium items, and 246 small items. Large items cost 50 yuan each, medium items 1 yuan each, and small items 0.5 yuan each. That adds up to 728 yuan. How would you like to transfer the money to me? Only then did I remember the verbal agreement I had made with the courier station owner before, when my brother and sister-in-law bought this house. They were particularly drawn to the school district associated with this community. Even though the neighborhood is old, run down, and lacks an elevator, they still decided to settle here. As a result, even though the location is convenient, all packages for this community require an extra walk to the courier station across the street. My mother often suffers from back pain, making it inconvenient for her to carry packages up and down the stairs. My sister-in-law is pregnant, making it even more inconvenient for her to go up and down the stairs to fetch packages. The task of handling the packages then fell to my brother and me. I am usually busy with work, the courier station is not open when I leave in the morning, and it is already closed by the time I return in the evening. As for my brother, he is lazy and idle, a grown man unwilling to exert even a little effort. He even makes up various excuses to avoid going to the courier station. Things online are cheap and come in a wide variety. My mom, my sister-in-law, and my brother all love shopping online, buying things for the pregnant woman and for the kids. Seeing the packages from our family piling up like a mountain at the delivery station, the station owner kept calling to ask us to take them home. Feeling sorry for my mom and my sister-in-law, and unable to persuade my brother, I had to make an agreement with the station owner to deliver the packages to our home, paying him per item. I've been sending it for several months in a row. My mom, my brother, and my sister-in-law were all quite happy about it, and they never mentioned who should be paying for it. In the past, I thought we were family, so I took on the responsibility, but now, I've cut ties with them. I transferred over 700 yuan to the courier station owner and then cancelled the home delivery service. Also, regarding packages sent to this address, there is no need to contact me anymore. I immediately gave the courier station owner the phone numbers of my brother, my sister-in-law, and my mother. If they refuse to pick up their packages and it affects your business, don't hesitate to just return the items to the sender. The innkeeper kept nodding in agreement. Before long, the situation took a new turn. In the usually quiet owners group of the old, rundown neighborhood, someone publicly insulted my sister-in-law. When my sister-in-law was wronged, my brother and my mother naturally stood up for her, engaging in a heated argument with the person in the group chat. As the argument escalated, I finally pieced together the whole story. It turned out that my sister-in-law, my mother, and my brother were all unwilling to go up and down the stairs to fetch packages. My sister-in-law simply called to complain to the courier company. The courier company didn't indulge her, so she escalated the complaint to the Department of Commerce and Industry. The department then ordered the courier company to deliver packages directly to the door. The courier company responded that the neighborhood pathways were too narrow for delivery vehicles to pass through easily and asked my sister-in-law to be understanding. But behind my sister-in-law stood my unreasonable brother and my mother. Neither of them wanted to go through the trouble of fetching packages upstairs and downstairs, so they supported my sister-in-law in continuing to file complaints with the Market Supervision Administration. The courier company got so angry that they simply decided to go all out, teaming up with several other courier companies to have all their delivery personnel stop delivering to this old, run-down neighborhood. For a while, deliveries to this neighborhood came to a complete halt. All the residents in the neighborhood stopped receiving their packages. This angered the other residents in the neighborhood. This sparked the group chat war. Watching my mom, my brother, and my sister-in-law being attacked by everyone in the community, I quietly enjoyed the drama. You're pregnant, not saving humanity. What makes you think you can't go up and down the stairs to get your packages? And you two perfectly able-bodied people, what's the big deal about walking a few steps to get your packages? You've managed to stop all deliveries. The courier company explained that the narrow passage in our community makes it impossible for delivery vehicles to get through. With just a few cents per package, is it really necessary to torment the courier like this? The whole family was relying on their daughter to leech off her. And now that she's run away, with no one left to exploit, they're dumping the problem on the entire community. You're just creating trouble. the arguments in the group chat weren't enough, some people even came to my house to knock on the door and vent their frustration. My mom, my brother, and my sister-in-law are classic examples of being tough only at home when faced with even the slightest aggression from outsiders. They don't dare to act out at all, the whole family feels anxious and fearful. Whenever they go out, in the end, they had no choice but to withdraw their complaint against the courier, under the neighbors' pressure. My sister-in-law signed a promise not to complain about the courier company anymore, and only then did the courier service resume normal operations. The courier service has returned to normal. My mom's, my brother's, and my sister-in-law's packages are still sitting at the delivery station, with no one going to pick them up. No one is willing to put in the effort. No one was willing to pay for it. My brother bluntly stated that since he didn't buy the package, it wasn't his responsibility to pick it up. My sister-in-law was pregnant, and if anything happened to her while going up and down the stairs to get the package, what would we do? In the end, it was my mother who went to pick it up, large, medium, and small packages, until she developed a herniated disc, crying out in pain day and night, plus, with all the household chores and miscellaneous tasks at home. My mom's back just couldn't take it anymore. My brother and sister-in-law were both cold to her, each colder than the other. They told her to go to the hospital by herself. They told her to cover her own medical expenses. She looked at the medical bills, her heart aching as tears fell. Even so, she would not think of her daughter's kindness, for her daughter was a lunatic, barely able to take care of herself. What if she contacted her daughter and got entangled with the mentally ill girl? Therefore, she could only turn to her son for help. But my son is a master at shirking responsibility. I don't know what my brother said to my sister-in-law in private, but every time my mother needed money for medical treatment, my sister-in-law would step forward with her pregnant belly, urging my mother to think more about the unborn child. The elderly love grandsons, so she had no choice but to cut back on her medication and reduce her treatment sessions to save some money. My back is killing me, but I can only manage to rub it myself. She comforts herself like coaxing a child, repeatedly telling herself that it won't hurt if she just rubs it a little, that it will pass if she just endures a little longer. She still thinks she's young, still thinks she's strong and vigorous. The money my sister-in-law saved by not taking anticoagulants, my brother spent it all on buying big fish and meat. He stews a chicken every day. He goes for a seafood buffet once a week. He enjoys a happy trip to a countryside farmhouse once a month. The three of us had food and drink, and happy days still outnumbered the difficult ones. Especially my brother. My sister-in-law encouraged and praised him every day, making him feel like the head of the household and the best person in the world. My mother worked tirelessly, doing all the household chores without ever daring to raise her voice at my brother. My brother leaves early and returns late, spending every last penny of his 7,000 or 8,000 yuan each month. My mother said, "Since you don't need to spend money on medicine or injections, you should save a bit for your child's future." But my sister-in-law thinks, money is meant to be spent. Besides, Mom, you must have some savings from all these years, and you'll surely give it to your son and grandchildren when the time comes. My mother quickly denied having any money. My sister-in-law didn't believe it. "Don't lie to me. Your son said you're his biggest security." What my sister-in-law didn't know was that my brother's biggest security was my mother's exploitation of me. My mother and my sister-in-law were secretly competing, and my mother's resentment toward my sister-in-law grew stronger. Not even 2 months later, my sister-in-law started bleeding, and her legs swelled up like water bladders about to burst. My sister-in-law got scared and rushed to the hospital to see a doctor. The doctor found that my sister-in-law was at high risk of thrombosis and still prescribed anticoagulant medication and injections. My sister-in-law hesitated and struggled. My brother was also at a loss, until the doctor said that if things continued to develop this way, it might result in 2 lives being lost. My sister-in-law was afraid of death and ultimately had no choice but to agree to the medication. The medication had only been used for a few days. My sister-in-law still developed a blood clot and was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. The doctor, looking at the critically ill pregnant woman, found it strange and repeatedly asked my sister-in-law if she had taken the medication as prescribed. My sister-in-law said she had always followed the doctor's instructions and didn't understand why this had happened to her. In the end, it was only after the blood sample test showed no traces of medication that my mother confessed everything. It turned out that she had switched the medication after hearing that my sister-in-law was using anticoagulants. How could that medication be used? It would harm the child. I was the one who switched the medication. You doctors are just obsessed with making money. My wife is definitely fine. When I gave birth, I just squatted in the field and had the baby. Women these days are so delicate. She urged my brother not to sign the emergency consent form. My brother panicked. The doctor shouted loudly, Making the old lady realize that her daughter-in-law was already in the emergency operating room, she quickly came to her senses and told the doctor to save the child, not the mother, and to perform a cesarean section immediately to deliver the baby. She also told my sister-in-law to rest in peace, promising that she would raise her grandson well. My sister-in-law, lying on the operating table, was so enraged by my mother's words that her chest heaved violently, but she forced herself to hold on and refused to give up. The child was successfully delivered but had severe jaundice and was placed in an incubator. Where's my sister-in-law? A blood clot reached her lungs, so she can only lie in bed with tubes inserted. Her mind is clear, but her body can no longer move. The high medical expenses really hurt my mother. You have to understand, she's the kind of person who hesitates for a long time before buying a box of painkillers. How could she willingly spend tens of thousands a day to keep her daughter-in-law alive, right in front of my sister-in-law? My mother and my brother discussed pulling the oxygen tube. My brother and my sister-in-law still had feelings for each other. So at first, my brother firmly disagreed. However, after my mother's persuasion, my brother broke down in tears again. In the end, when my mother reached out to pull the oxygen tube, my brother didn't stop her, he just silently walked outside, not wanting to be resented by his wife. Fortunately, the doctors and nurses witnessed my mother's murderous intent, which is why my sister-in-law survived. Not only did she survive, she was even able to speak. As soon as she opened her mouth, she accused my mother of trying to kill her, calling her a murderer. Perhaps it was a strong will to survive. Although my sister-in-law is paralyzed from the waist down, her mouth never stops talking from morning till night. My brother and my mother, fearing that my sister-in-law might say too many things she shouldn't, brought her home along with the baby as soon as the child was well enough to leave the incubator. My sister-in-law asked a nurse to call the police for her, to have the police install surveillance at home for her, in case my brother and my mother might kill her. This burden, when the police arrived at home, it was naturally impossible to install surveillance for my sister-in-law, but to reassure her, they still said a few words to the neighbors, asking them to check on my sister-in-law from time to time. The neighbors agreed to the police's request as if watching a joke. He really only comes by occasionally to take a look. It's more like keeping an eye on my mom and brother to make sure they don't do anything out of line. To my sister-in-law, a newborn baby is incredibly difficult to take care of. A nagging, bedridden shrew is even harder to deal with. Here, the little one is pooping and peeing, while the older one is also making a mess with their waste. My brother definitely wouldn't get involved in these matters. My mother took on all the tasks: washing clothes, cooking, cleaning, taking care of two immobile individuals, and even picking up packages for her daughter-in-law, son, and grandson. Her back was almost broken, but her son wouldn't take her to the hospital for treatment. She understood that her son worked hard to earn money, so she just endured it. She just kept enduring it. That old back finally gave out on the day she carried my brother's new game console up the stairs to bring it home. She lay on the staircase for a long, long time. Winter in the south, a cold night. If no one had found her, she might have frozen to death that night. And from that day on, my mother also became paralyzed, unable to move from the neck down. From then on, my brother had to face 3 family members who were too weak to care for themselves. When I heard about the changes in my family from the innkeeper, I thought to myself that my brother would finally grow up this time. It's time for him to take on his responsibilities. But what we didn't expect was, your brother sold the house. We thought he wanted to move to a lower floor to make it easier for your mom, your sister-in-law, and your nephew to get around. He did end up renting a small apartment on a lower floor and even hired a nanny to take care of the family. We never imagined that your brother wouldn't even endure a single day of hardship. He left the 3 family members with the nanny and ran off on his own. The nanny worked tirelessly for a month, tormented by your mother and sister-in-law to the point of exhaustion, and in the end, she couldn't even get paid by her employer, no matter how hard the nanny tried to track him down. She couldn't find your brother. With no other choice, the nanny finally called the police and quickly fled. The police couldn't just let it slide, so they tracked your brother down and brought him back from Macau. Upon closer inquiry, it turns out all the money from selling the house was squandered by your brother on a life of debauchery. The police urged your brother to take on the responsibility of caring for his family members. On the surface, he agreed, but in reality, he continued to neglect them completely. It wasn't until the landlord came to collect the rent that it was discovered your brother had run off again. Your nephew, without a single piece of clothing on in the dead of winter, froze to death on the balcony. Your sister-in-law crawled on the floor searching for the child, hit her head, and also passed away. As for your mother, she lay on a bed piled with filth, surrounded by 2 corpses for over half a month. your mother truly has a strong will to live, or perhaps she's just remarkably resilient. Even under such circumstances, she survived. An ordinary person would have either been disgusted to death or scared to death. By the time the police investigated the matter, my brother had already been persuaded by so-called friends to go to northern Myanmar. The police tried to intercept his illegal border crossing but failed. Not long after, my brother's body was sent back to the country. My mother, who was bedridden in the elderly welfare home, was so devastated by the news of my brother's death that she couldn't shed a single tear. Welfare homes vary in quality, and if you don't pay, the treatment for the elderly is very poor. My mother, all alone and pitiful in the welfare home, was treated like livestock, stripped of all dignity. It was actually my mother's former neighbor who, out of sympathy, went to visit her and tried to persuade her to contact me, but my mother just shook her head over and over. Even though she could barely string a sentence together, she managed to write down a line: "My daughter is mentally ill, she might kill someone. Being with her, I'm afraid I'll die even sooner." The neighbor couldn't understand how I, who had seemed perfectly fine, could have developed a mental illness, but seeing my mother like that, I still told the police about my existence as her daughter. When the police contacted me, I didn't hesitate to show them the severance agreement I had signed back then. The police looked at the agreement and couldn't demand that I take responsibility for my mother, so the matter was dropped. Many years later, my mother fell seriously ill and was admitted to the hospital. A hospital is not a charity, all expenses must be paid. After some thought, I ultimately decided to go to the hospital and pay the bill. My mother, with tubes inserted, stared at me dressed in high-end designer clothes, her eyes nearly popping out of her head. You're not mentally ill." A person who hadn't spoken for many years opened their mouth out of shock. I calmly replied, "I have never had a mental illness. The previous examination report was just something I fabricated." Her dim eyes welled up with tears. "Why?" I smiled. "Of course, it was to escape from all of you." At that moment, the doctor came over and told me about my mother's physical condition. He said that in her condition, she could only survive with a tube inserted. The cost was very high, and he asked me if I wanted to continue. I asked my mother if she wanted to live. She was visibly moved, her eyes filled with gratitude. She nodded, indicating that she wanted to live. She felt that she had finally waited for my success and wanted to enjoy a life of comfort with me. "But, my mother, I no longer wish to spend a single penny on you." She watched helplessly as I signed the "Do Not Resuscitate" consent form. She heard with her own ears as I told the doctor not to give her painkillers to relieve her suffering. In the midst of struggle, in the midst of agony, my mother, with her big eyes wide open, passed away. I did not arrange any funeral for her. I simply let the hospital take her for research and dissection. My mother's death was like a small interlude in life, something that passed and was over. It had no impact whatsoever on my life. I still need to devote myself to my work, my life, my hobbies, and look forward to the future. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. Sarah's fingers trailed along the cold golden railing, the diamonds embedded in it refracting blinding light under the moonlight. This golden-roofed villa, which took 3 years to build, had every brick and tile transformed by her own hands. Now a landmark coveted by the world's wealthiest, the sound of an engine cutting off rose from below. She looked down to see Mia stepping out of a battered second-hand van, the cuffs of her navy blue work pants stained with cement, clutching a rusted wrench in her hand. The ultimate reward from her "more work, more gains" system at max level, said to boost work efficiency by 5%. "Big sister, still admiring your golden mountain?" Mia's voice drifted up 20 floors, horse-like metal scraping against metal. She climbed the villa's gilded outer railings, the iron spikes on her work boots scratching the pure gold surface, leaving ugly gashes. Sarah frowned. In her past life, she'd always thought her sister's hardships were self-inflicted, but only now did she realize those scratches were like scars, long carved between them. Overtime at the construction site today. Sarah stepped aside to let her in. The chandelier in the center of the living room, forged from 100 pounds of gold, was blinding, but Mia acted as if she didn't see it, heading straight to the water dispenser to gulp down half a bucket of cold water. The sound of her throat working was stark in the empty room. The more work, more gains system issued an emergency task: haul 30 tons of steel bars for $500. She wiped her mouth, lips twisting into a mocking smile. Enough for big sister to buy the tiniest diamond, right? Sarah didn't respond. 20 years ago, on the day the systems bound to them, their mother had pushed 2 gift boxes toward them. Mia had cried, saying she wanted the one with the pink ribbon. So Sarah had let her have it, only later did she learn the ribbon color meant nothing. Mia had tampered with the box, swapping the internal chip beforehand. All these years, Sarah had built a business empire with her turn stone to gold system, watching her sister start from delivering newspapers, scraping by sweeping streets, hauling bricks, and carrying cement to earn points, until she became the system-certified, world's most efficient laborer, yet still couldn't afford a decent home. You know what? Mia suddenly spoke, spinning the wrench in her palm. Yesterday, the system gave me a hidden quest: kill you, and I inherit your system. Sarah whipped around to see her sister's bloodshot eyes, the mark of chronic overwork. I didn't want to believe it. Mia's voice trembled, but it said, everything you have now was supposed to be half mine. When the wrench swung toward her, Sarah didn't even have time to scream. Agony exploded from the back of her skull, warm liquid trickling down her neck, dripping onto the Persian rug worth millions. She collapsed, watching Mia kneel beside her, hands slick with blood, her eyes not filled with the triumph of revenge but a dazed, crushed look. Why, didn't it say the quest was complete? Mia muttered, the wrench clattering to the floor. In the last fading seconds of consciousness, Sarah heard the familiar electronic voice in her mind, colder than ever, host's vital signs plummeting, turned stone to gold, system unbinding, detecting strong lingering attachment from linked individual, initiating temporal rewind. Protocol. The sharp scent of disinfectant stung her nostrils as Sarah jolted awake, her vision filled with the sterile white ceiling of a hospital room. The digital calendar on the wall displayed June 18, 20XX, her 18th birthday. Sarah's awake, her mother's voice, thick with tears, rang in her ears. Turning her head, Sarah noticed the streaks of white at her mother's temples and suddenly remembered. This was the day she'd been pushed down the stairs by Mia over the last slice of cake. Cracking her skull open, in her past life, she'd spent 3 days in the hospital, missing the critical moment when the system would bind, forced to watch as her sister took the gift box meant for her. Mom, I'm fine, she muttered, struggling to sit up as blood seeped through the bandage on her forehead. The door creaked open, and Mia walked in holding a cake box, her smile deliberate. Happy birthday, sis, I got you chocolate mousse. Sarah stared at her hands, still slender and unblemished, free of the calluses and scars from years of labor that would come later. The doctor says you can be discharged. Let's go home and cut the cake, her father said as he entered with their bags, exhaustion barely concealed in his voice. Sarah remembered, he'd just lost his job that day, and her mother's small diner had been shut down for failing a health inspection. Their family was at its lowest point. That was why, when 2 mysterious gift boxes arrived, they'd assumed it was aid from some distant relative. Back home, the living room light flickered weakly as her mother placed 2 identical boxes on the table, their pink ribbons glowing eerily in the dim light. No idea who sent these. There's no name, her mother said, rubbing her hands together, hope flickering in her eyes. Should we open them? Sarah's heart pounded. This was the moment. Last time, she'd let Mia choose first because of her dizziness, and her sister had instantly grabbed the left box, activating the alchemy system. The one on the right, left forgotten in a drawer, had turned out to be the activation card for the hard work pays off system, discovered half a year too late. You pick first, sis, Mia suddenly said, stepping aside with a knowing smirk. Sarah froze. Last time, her sister had been impatient. You're the elder sister, you should choose, Mia added, though her gaze remained locked on the left box. Just as Sarah reached out, Mia stumbled, or pretended to, lurching forward with a dramatic gasp. Oops, she cried, snatching the left box into her arms. Sorry, sis, I tripped. She tore open the wrapping, revealing a palm-sized metal case. The moment she pressed the button, a beam of golden light shot out, piercing her forehead. Alchemy system successfully bound, a cold electronic voice announced. Sarah's blood turned to ice. She watched Mia's barely contained glee before slowly opening the remaining box. Inside lay a yellowed card, for bold characters printed across it. Hard work pays off. The more you work, the more you gain. System has been successfully bound. Current level 1. The mechanical voice echoed in Sarah's mind as she crouched on the floor, picking up the shattered pieces of cake Mia had knocked over. The sticky cream clung to her fingers, yet she felt no warmth. Look, sis, Mia rushed toward her, holding up a glass. Tiny golden particles were slowly forming on its surface. I can really turn things into gold. She excitedly tapped the glass against the table, and the base immediately caved inward, revealing a gleaming golden interior, their mother gasped, covering her mouth, while their father's eyes lit up with excitement. Only Sarah noticed the faint, eerie blue-black discoloration spreading across Mia's wrist where the golden light had flashed. Initial task issued: clean the living room, reward, $5. The system's prompt sounded again. Sarah took a deep breath, grabbed a broom, and began sweeping. The crumbs mixed with cream stuck stubbornly to the floor, forcing her to kneel and scrub with a rag. Meanwhile, Mia was turning their family's enamel bowls into gold one by one, the clinking sounds grating on Sarah's nerves. Just sweeping the floor, and you're this slow? Mia's voice dripped with impatience as she shoved a golden bowl into their mother's hands. Mom, from now on, we'll eat from gold bowls. Their mother trembled as she held it. But, is this really okay? What if someone sees? What's there to be afraid of? Mia shrugged dismissively before suddenly grabbing Sarah's wrist. Look at your hands, sis, so dirty, you should really work harder. The moment Mia's fingers touched Sarah's skin, the system blared an alarm. Abnormal energy contact detected, activating defense mechanism. A sudden warmth spread across Sarah's hand, and when she looked down, a thin layer of callus had formed where Mia had touched her. What did you do? Mia yanked her hand back, her own skin now reddened. Why does your hand feel like sandpaper? She took a few wary steps back before suddenly snatching a golden bowl from the table and bolting for the door. I'm going to the gold shop to see how much this is worth. Sarah watched her disappear down the hallway before returning to scrubbing the floor. When the last stain was finally gone, the system chimed. Task completed. Reward of $5 has been deposited. She opened the system panel. Her balance now showed $5, and the experience bar had inched forward by a barely noticeable sliver. A commotion erupted downstairs. Sarah ran out just in time to see Mia being shoved out of the gold shop, the golden bowl clattering to the ground with a dull thud. Where'd you get this fake gold, you little brat? Trying to scam me? The shop owner slammed the door shut, leaving Mia standing frozen, tears welling in her eyes as she stared at the now deformed bowl. What happened? Sarah approached, picking up the bowl. The golden sheen was fading, revealing the original enamel beneath. It changed back. Mia's voice trembled. The system said the transformation was permanent. Sarah's fingers traced the rim of the bowl as the system warned. Unstable metal conversion detected. Contains illegal energy residue. Recommendation: avoid such objects. She looked up at Mia. Her sister's eyes were now shadowed, eerily mirroring the expression Sarah had seen on that rainy night 20 years later. The day after being kicked out of the jewelry store, Mia locked herself in her room all day. As evening fell, she suddenly burst out, dumping all the textbooks from her bag onto the table. Grabbing the math book, she pressed it against the wall. Change for me, she growled through gritted teeth, her fingertips glowing with a faint golden light. Sarah, who was helping their mother pick vegetables in the kitchen, heard a crisp crack from the living room. Turning around, she saw the math book had transformed into a solid gold lump, with the texture of its pages still clearly embedded in the metal. Are you out of your mind? Sarah rushed over. We still need this book. What's there to fear? Mia threw the gold bar onto the table with a dull thud. Once I sell this, I'll buy you 10 new ones. Her eyes gleamed with obsession as she grabbed the enamel mug from the table. In an instant, the cup transformed into an intricate golden vessel, still bearing the chipped edge from its previous life. Their mother watched in horror from the side. Mia, stop transforming things recklessly. What if someone finds out? And what if they do? Mia cut her off, snatching the golden cup and dashing outside. I'm going to try another gold shop right now. For the next 3 days, Mia was like a woman possessed. She turned the metal drawer of her desk into gold, only for it to jam in its tracks, earning her a public scolding from the teacher. She secretly replaced the plastic buttons on her school uniform with gold nuggets, which scattered like chocolate beans during PE class when she ran. The most absurd incident came when she transformed the family's iron wok into solid gold while her parents weren't looking. That evening, as her mother started cooking, the flames barely licked the bottom before the pan began glowing red and melting, splattering molten gold across the stovetop and burning holes through 2 tiles. What kind of monster is this? Father trembled with rage as he stared at the deformed golden pot. Mia, however, kicked the remnants of the pot carelessly and said, just buy another one, I've got plenty of money. But she soon discovered that the gold she conjured couldn't be spent. After visiting 5 different gold shops in a row, she was either chased out as a fraud or had the owners secretly call the police. On the afternoon of the 4th day, when 2 officers showed up at their door, Sarah was delivering freshly baked peach cookies to Grandma Zhang on the third floor, a task assigned by the more work, more rewards system, though the reward was only $2. It came with a +1 baking skill proficiency bonus. We've received reports that your child is in possession of gold items of unknown origin, the officer said, flashing his badge as Mia hastily hid a golden eraser under her pillow. Their mother rushed to explain, but Mia suddenly shrieked, "It's Sarah, she's jealous that I have a system and deliberately had someone report me." Sarah stood at the doorway, still holding the empty pastry box. As she watched her sister's flushed face, she suddenly remembered the scene from her past life when the police had taken Mia away, only this time it had happened much sooner. The officers found 3 oddly shaped gold nuggets under the bed, one of which was a solid gold math textbook still bearing the publisher's name. The evidence was undeniable. "Come with us to the station to give a statement." When the police tried to take Mia away, she clung desperately to the doorframe, refusing to budge. Her eyes, sharp as poison daggers, glared at Sarah. "I won't let you get away with this." In the end, it was only after her father emptied his pockets and borrowed from neighbors that they barely managed to settle the matter. The gold nugget was confiscated, supposedly to verify its origin, leaving the house completely broke. Sarah lay in bed, listening to her parents' muffled arguments in the next room, when the system suddenly popped up with a new task: part-time flyer distribution, daily pay, $50, reward, +0.1 endurance attribute. She silently accepted. At least the $50 was something tangible she could get her hands on. Handing out flyers turned out to be harder than Sarah had imagined. The summer sun scorched the asphalt, yet few people took the flyers she offered. Some grabbed them only to toss them aside without a glance, others outright avoided her, and one elderly woman even scolded her. Young people these days, no sense of decency, handing out this scammy trash. Host has completed 30% of flyer distribution. Hidden task triggered: collect litter from the ground, reward, 10 environmental points. The system's prompt chimed just as Sarah bent to pick up a discarded flyer. She decided to squat by the bus stop with her stack of flyers, immediately retrieving any that were thrown away. By noon, she'd somehow accumulated 200 points. Points can be exchanged for skills. Basic metal identification costs 1,000 points. Sarah froze for a moment. This skill didn't seem to fit the more work, more rewards system at all, but she didn't dwell on it and kept her head down, handing out flyers. By the end of the day, not only had she earned $50, but her endurance attribute had also increased to 1-2. She'd walked all day and surprisingly didn't feel too tired. In the days that followed, Sarah packed her free time to the brim. Helping Old Man Wang downstairs carry sacks of rice earned her a strength +0.3 reward from the system. Writing fire safety posters for the community granted her beginner calligraphy. On weekends, sorting plastic bottles at the recycling station rewarded her with mastery in waste classification. The recycling station owner, impressed by her efficiency, even paid her an extra $10 per hour, slowly pushing her savings into the triple digits. One day, while sorting old newspapers at the recycling station, her fingers suddenly brushed against something cold. Special metallic substance detected. Use identification skill. The system prompt popped up, and Sarah clicked confirm. A line of text immediately flashed in her mind: meteorite fragment containing rare metal iridium, estimated market value, approximately $5,000. Her heart skipped a beat. Without drawing attention, she picked up the dark brown fragment hidden among the scrap metal and quietly slipped it into her pocket. After work, she rushed straight to the city's planetarium and found Professor Lee, who specialized in meteorite research. The old man initially thought it was just a child's prank, but when he tested the fragment with his instruments, he suddenly grabbed Sarah's hand in excitement. "This is a carbonaceous chondrite. Where did you get this?" "I found it at the scrap yard," Sarah answered truthfully, watching as Professor Lee promptly transferred $5,000. Her palms were drenched in sweat. It was the first time in both her lifetimes that she had earned so much money through her own labor and luck. Ever since the police had given her trouble, Mia had become a complete outcast at school. No one wanted to talk to her, and even the girls who used to flock around her now avoided her like the plague. She directed all her resentment at Sarah, sneaking into the girls' restroom during lunch break and scrawling curses in gold glitter on the stall doors. "Sarah deserves to die a horrible death. The bitch who stole my system." A younger girl accidentally witnessed it and, terrified, immediately reported it to a teacher. By the time the dean arrived with Mia's parents to handle the situation, Sarah was watering the classroom plants, part of the system's Cultivate Life task, which rewarded her with plant care knowledge. She watched as Mia was dragged out by her mother, and the look in Mia's eyes as she glanced back already held the same madness from the previous life. Right before she swung the wrench, Mia secretly traded a gold ring she had hidden away for $2,000. Without telling her family, she pocketed the money and headed to the downtown mall, buying herself a dress studded with rhinestones and renting the latest model of smartphone. She began mimicking the flashy behavior of the rich kids she saw in TV dramas. She posted the restaurant location in the class group chat, along with a photo of 3 steaks laid out in front of her, captioned, "Eating alone feels a bit lonely," but hardly anyone responded, except for the class monitor who commented, "The steaks at that place are synthetic meat, you got scammed." Mia was so angry she almost threw her phone. She then posted another photo, this time of a gold bracelet on her wrist. Someone commented, "Saw that bracelet at the flea market last week, plastic, $10 for 3. She didn't know that the bracelet was indeed exchanged for gold with a street vendor, but the vendor took the gold and gave her a fake. To prove she was genuinely wealthy, Mia gritted her teeth and transformed her father's treasured purple clay teapot into a golden one, secretly selling it to a dealer at the antique market for $50,000. On the first day she got the money, she invited a few classmates who seemed well off to a high-end restaurant, but she ended up making a fool of herself. She didn't know the napkin was supposed to be placed on her lap, held the knife and fork backward, and even gulped down the red wine like it was soda, choking until her face turned red. Leo, the rich kid sitting across from her, couldn't help but laugh. "This isn't flaunting wealth, it's embarrassing yourself. What do you know?" Mia snapped, slamming a handful of gold beans onto the table from her bag. "This is enough to buy everything you're wearing." Leo's expression darkened instantly as he pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. "Know what this is? My dad's company's gold mine distribution map. Your little gold is just scrap to my family." Mia was left speechless, watching helplessly as Leo walked away with the others, leaving her alone to face a table full of untouched dishes and the probing gaze of the waitstaff. To make matters worse, she realized she couldn't afford the meal. The handful of golden beans had been discreetly confiscated by Leo's bodyguard, who claimed they were compensation for dirtying the restaurant's table. To salvage her pride, Mia set her sights on the stone lion sculptures at the school entrance, donated by alumni during the school's founding. They were said to be worth a fortune. Under the cover of night, she sneaked up to the sculptures and turned both lions into solid gold, then contacted black market buyers to haul them away. Unbeknownst to her, a surveillance camera hidden at the base of the sculptures captured her every move. The next morning, the entire school was in an uproar. News of the golden lion spread quickly, and when the police arrived with sniffer dogs to investigate, they immediately pulled the surveillance footage. The video clearly showed Mia's figure, even recording her chanting, "Change, change, change," like a spell. This time, no one could protect her. The school not only expelled her but also demanded compensation for the original value of the sculptures. They were cultural artifacts, worth far more than their weight in gold. Her parents sold everything they could and borrowed money from every relative to scrape together the payment. Watching her mother wipe away tears in secret, Sarah quietly took out the $5,000 from the meteorite sale and handed it to her. "Mom, use this for now." Mother clutched the money, her hands trembling uncontrollably. "Sarah, it's our fault for not being capable enough." Sarah shook her head. She had just received a system notification, rewarded with parental affection plus 20 for alleviating the family's financial crisis. Seeing the renewed light in her mother's eyes, she suddenly felt this was more precious than any fortune in her past life. Meanwhile, Mia, confined to the house, stared at her increasingly sallow complexion in the mirror and felt fear for the first time. She realized she might no longer be able to control that damned system. By the 3rd week of Mia's confinement, a gold patch the size of a fingernail suddenly appeared on the back of her left hand. At first, she thought it was gold powder she had accidentally smeared, but no matter how hard she scrubbed with soap, it wouldn't wash off, and touching it sent a burning sting through her skin. It must be Sarah's doing. She locked herself in her room, gnashing her teeth at the patch in the mirror. These days, she hadn't dared to use the system recklessly, but the more she suppressed it, the darker her resentment grew. During dinner that evening, when Sarah placed a spare rib in their mother's bowl, Mia suddenly exploded like a firecracker. "Who are you pretending to be nice for? Are you thrilled to see me like this now that I'm down?" "I'm not." Sarah set down her chopsticks. "The doctor said your liver levels aren't great. you should eat less greasy food, none of your business." Mia slammed her hand on the table, but before the golden glow at her fingertips could fully manifest, Sarah instinctively raised her arm to block it. The moment their hands collided, the cotton fabric at Sarah's cuff suddenly tightened with a rip sound, transforming into a shimmering golden fabric, while Mia screamed in pain. The golden patch on her hand, as if branded by a hot iron, instantly expanded to the size of a coin. System warning: unnatural energy conflict detected, retaliation mechanism triggered. The cold electronic voice echoed in Mia's mind for the first time with a warning tremor. Excessive use of material conversion function will result in energy erosion of the host's body. Sarah stared at her golden sleeve, then at her sister writhing on the floor clutching her hand, and suddenly recalled the words of the junkyard owner: "Anything that comes too easily must be paid for." Silently, she peeled off the golden fabric. The system prompted: "Abnormal material X1 obtained, exchangeable for 50 points." Without hesitation, she clicked confirm. In the days that followed, Mia's condition worsened. She found herself utterly unable to control the system. Pages of books would suddenly turn into gold foil while flipping, glass cups would melt into gold lumps in her hands, and most terrifying of all, that morning when she merely handed her mother a scarf, the woolen fabric stiffened into unyielding golden threads. Meanwhile, the golden patches on her hand had spread to her wrist, like rust growing beneath her skin. "We must find a way to stop this." Her father took her to every hospital, but all the tests showed nothing unusual. The doctors simply dismissed it as a rare skin condition. Mia scoured the internet for information about system backlash and finally stumbled upon a post in an encrypted forum. "Attention holders of the alchemy system, when converted materials exceed 100 kilograms, the living conversion permission will be triggered." Her eyes locked onto the words, living conversion, and a wild idea took root in her mind. Meanwhile, Sarah's more work, more rewards system unlocked a new feature. While volunteering in her community, the system suddenly prompted: team collaboration detected, social contribution module activated. Current task: organize a charity sale for teenagers, goal to raise $5,000 in donations. Reward: social reputation +10, random skill book X1. She gathered a few classmates and collected unused books and toys from everyone. Then, she contacted a recycling station owner for materials that could be repurposed, crafting them into handmade items. Sarah handled pricing and accounting, and with the help of the Introduction to Business Negotiation skill rewarded by the system, she managed to sell a set of old comic books for half their original price. On the day of the charity sale, Mia secretly blended into the crowd. She watched as Sarah was surrounded by classmates laughing and chatting, as residents willingly bought those worthless trinkets, and as the volunteer certificate was solemnly handed to Sarah. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through the golden patches on the back of her hand. She clenched her fist abruptly, her nails digging deep into her palm. Why did Sarah get so much with that lousy system, while she, who possessed the power to turn stone into gold, had to suffer from these damned golden patches? On the way home, Sarah received a system notification: total funds raised from the charity sale, $6,850, mission accomplished beyond expectations. Reward has been issued, skill book, basic management, obtained. She lowered her head to flip through the virtual skill book, unaware that not far behind her, Mia was staring at a stray cat by the roadside with an almost greedy look in her eyes. In the end, Mia took action against that stray cat. Late that night, when her parents and Sarah were sound asleep, she quietly slipped out of the house. The orange cat in the neighborhood flower bed was curled up in a cardboard box, dozing, holding her breath. She approached it, her hand trembling. The golden patches had already spread to her forearm, and every movement felt like needles pricking her skin. "Just this once," she murmured, the golden light at her fingertips more blinding than ever before. "If I can just cure this thing, I'll never use it again." When the orange tabby turned into a lifelike golden statue in her palm, Mia felt no fear, only a morbid excitement. Cradling the heavy golden cat, she contacted the black market buyer from before online. Upon hearing this was a living creature transformation, the buyer offered 3 times the price of ordinary gold artifacts. The deal went down at an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. As the buyer inspected the goods, he suddenly pointed at the golden cat's eyes and said, "Why are there blood vessels here?" Mia leaned in and saw dark red streaks frozen in the cat's pupils, eerily resembling blood. Her heart skipped a beat, but she forced calm into her voice. "It's a special technique. The day after getting the money," She visited a beauty salon to see if lasers could remove the golden patches, but as soon as the technician's device touched her skin, a shrill alarm sounded, the screen instantly went black, and the golden mark on her hand visibly expanded. Another ring. Monster, the beautician screamed in terror, knocking over the disinfectant as she pointed at the door, urging her to leave immediately. Mia covered her face and rushed out of the salon, wandering aimlessly through the streets until she found herself near the laboratory where Sarah was working on her environmental project. Through the window, she saw Sarah talking to a white-bearded old man, with a dark, charred stone placed on the table. Sarah recognized him as the institute's senior professor studying meteorite fragments. The old man pointed at the data on the computer screen, occasionally patting Sarah on the shoulder, his face full of approval, and in Sarah's hand was the metal identification ability upgrade card she had exchanged with her social contribution points. "Professor, look at the crystalline structure of this ore." Sarah's voice came through clearly, carrying a confident smile. Mia felt a surge of blood rush to her head. She stumbled backward, slamming into the wall, the golden patches on the back of her hands suddenly burning with intense heat. Just then, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, a clip from a surveillance video. The footage clearly showed her carrying a cardboard box out of the apartment building, accompanied by the text, "I know what you did. If you want this video to disappear, prepare 500000." The extortion came without warning. Only then did Mia remember that the residential complex had just installed high-definition surveillance cameras last week. She ran home like a madwoman, rummaging through every corner for anything that could be turned into gold. Her parents' savings passbook, the family's television, even the wall clock, all turned into gleaming gold in her palms. But these golden items couldn't fetch enough money. Black market buyers, hearing she was being watched, suddenly slashed the price to a tenth of the market value. What made her even more desperate was that the golden patches had spread to her neck. One morning while combing her hair, she noticed in the mirror that delicate golden patterns had appeared on her collarbone, like some eerie tattoo. The system's alert became intermittent, energy corruption at 70%, immediate cessation of conversion advised. Otherwise, she didn't catch the rest because her father suddenly burst into the room, holding up a notice. The property management had posted a missing cat flyer on the bulletin board, complete with surveillance screenshots. Though the face was pixelated, the clothes matched what Mia often wore. "Was it you who took that cat?" Her father's voice trembled uncontrollably. "The neighborhood group is buzzing, saying someone saw a golden light." "It wasn't me," Mia screamed, hurling the gold nugget at her father. "It was Sarah. She's the one who wants to ruin me." The argument drew the neighbors' attention. When someone pointed at the golden mark on Mia's neck and asked, "What's that?" she suddenly bolted out of the house like a madwoman, her mind consumed by a single thought: she was going to find Sarah and make her suffer the same fate. Meanwhile, Sarah was in the laboratory assisting the professor with analyzing a soil sample. The system notification popped up. Long-term participation in scientific research assistance has triggered the Academic Potential Assessment, Current Unlockable Branch, Introduction to Environmental Engineering. Staring at the fluctuating data on the screen, she had no idea that a catastrophic disaster was closing in on her home. Mia had been driven to madness by the excruciating pain of the golden mark. The day she was chased away by the security guard from the lab entrance, she went to the hospital again. The doctor looked at the golden patterns that had already spread across her neck and said with a grave expression, "This thing is spreading toward your heart. If it continues like this." The rest of the sentence went unspoken, but the fear in his eyes made her feel even more despair than the system's warnings. She ran home and locked herself in her room. The person in the mirror was no longer recognizable. Half of her face was covered in intricate golden patterns, and even the slightest movement of her lips produced a metallic scraping sound. The system had fallen completely silent. No matter how much she called out, there was no response. "It's all Sarah's fault," she repeated to herself. "If she hadn't stolen my life, how could I have ended up like this?" Once this thought took root, it grew wildly like vines. She began rummaging through drawers and cabinets until she found a wrench in the toolbox, almost identical to the one she had used to kill Sarah in her previous life. In the evening, Sarah returned home with the recommendation letter from the professor. As soon as she stepped inside, she caught a strange smell. Like the scent of red-hot metal. The living room was empty, her parents' bedroom door was tightly shut, and only a faint light seeped out from Mia's room. "Dad, Mom," she called out twice, but there was no response. When she pushed open Mia's door, she was stunned by the sight before her. Everything in the room had turned to gold: the chairs, tables, bed, books, even the wallpaper on the walls, were all covered in a thick layer of gold foil. Mia sat on the golden floor, hammering at the ground. With a wrench, with each strike, new gold spread from the cracks. "What are you doing?" Sarah rushed over to snatch the wrench but was shoved away by Mia. "Don't touch me." Mia's voice sounded like it was being squeezed out of a rusted iron pipe. "You must be so pleased, aren't you, seeing me like this? You're probably overjoyed inside." "I'm not." Sarah stared at the golden patterns on her face. "Let's go to the hospital. There must be a way." "A way?" Mia suddenly burst into laughter, the sound mixed with the clatter of metal. "The only way is for you to experience what it's like to be tangled up in this thing too." She abruptly raised a wrench and swung it at Sarah. Sarah instinctively dodged, and the wrench struck a golden wardrobe with a deafening crash. She turned to run but tripped over a golden block on the floor, her elbows slamming hard against the ground. The system notification popped up: detected severe impact, defense mechanism triggered, temporary buff, pain reduction acquired, run, keep running. Mia, like a frenzied beast, swung a wrench as she chased after her. The two tussled in the living room, knocking over golden furniture that clattered loudly. Though Sarah had the enhanced endurance and strength from the system, she still hesitated to strike with full force, while Mia had completely lost her mind, aiming every blow at vital spots. Amid the struggle, Sarah crashed into their parents' bedroom door. It turned out she had locked them inside, their mouths stuffed with golden cloth, desperately pounding on the door. "Let them go," Sarah roared, shoving Mia aside as she rushed to undo the lock, only to be grabbed from behind by Mia, who clung to her tightly. "Let's die together." Mia's voice trembled with tears, the golden patterns on her neck suddenly flaring with a blinding light. "If I can't have happiness, none of you will." She dragged Sarah toward the kitchen, where the gas pipeline was connected. Sarah struggled to turn her head and saw Mia pressing her other hand against the gas valve. Her entire arm had already turned golden. "You're insane, everyone will die." "Good, let them die." Mia violently twisted the valve open, and the pungent smell of gas instantly filled the air. With a sinister grin, she extended her golden hand, the glow at her fingertips growing brighter. She intended to turn the gas pipe into gold, to make the entire building her burial offering. No. Sarah mustered all her strength to break free, grabbed a fruit knife from the table, and slashed Mia's arm. Golden blood gushed from the wound, and Mia screamed in pain, but her grip on the pipe didn't loosen. As the gas pipe turned into pure gold under her palm, Sarah suddenly remembered a detail from the system's metal identification ability. Reward: pure gold has thermal conductivity several times higher than ordinary metals. Her heart clenched as she glanced at the still burning embers on the stove. "Run!" She turned and dashed toward her parents' room, slamming her shoulder against the door. Just then, the golden gas pipe exploded from the intense heat, amid the towering flames. The last thing Sarah saw was Mia standing in the center of the kitchen, the golden patterns on her body glowing molten bright in the fire. Mia opened her mouth as if to say something, but only a stream of golden flames spilled out. As for Sarah, in the split second before the blast wave hurled her away, she clung desperately to the photo album filled with old memories on the nightstand. The reward she had just earned yesterday for completing the Guardian of Family Memories task. The explosions. Shockwave flung her out of the room and into the hallway. Her back burned with pain, but she shielded the album in her arms with everything she had. Through the swirling smoke and dust, she thought she heard that icy system voice from her past life again, only this time, it seemed to carry a faint sigh. By the time the fire was extinguished, the sky was already beginning to lighten. Sarah sat in the ambulance, thick bandages wrapped around her back. When the firefighters carried Mia's remains from the ruins, she didn't turn to look. The body had completely transformed into a golden statue, shimmering eerily in the dawn light, its expression frozen in a final moment of madness. Her parents had suffered minor injuries and were now sitting in another ambulance nearby. Her mother's sobs drifted through the window, like a blunt needle repeatedly pricking Sarah's heart. The "more work, more rewards" system flickered in her mind, displaying a new notification: significant trauma detected. Initiating psychological assessment. Result: recommends 72 hours of rest. She silently closed the system panel. The fire had not only burned down the house but also her last lingering attachment to the two systems. The days that followed felt like a long dream. Her parents rented a small apartment with the insurance payout, her father took a job as a security guard, and her mother set up a breakfast stall again. After being discharged from the hospital, Sarah helped at home while continuing to assist the professor with research projects at the institute. One day, While sorting through the remnants of the fire, she picked up a half-burnt golden fragment from the ashes, a remnant of the gold Mia had conjured. The systems suddenly alerted, high-purity anomalous metal detected, exchangeable for 1,000 points or system unbinding privilege. Sarah froze. She stared at the unbind button on the panel, her finger hovering for a long time before finally pressing confirm. The more work, more reward system will now unbind. Confirm. Confirmed. The moment the electronic voice disappeared, Sarah didn't feel loss. Instead, she felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. The skills she had gained through tasks remained: calligraphy, metal identification, basic management. But there was no longer a mechanical voice urging her to complete missions. 6 months later, leveraging her experience at the institute, Sarah co-founded an environmental recycling company with a few classmates. They specialized in processing e-waste and industrial scrap, using her metal identification skills to extract valuable resources from discarded materials. The early days were tough. Unable to afford a proper facility, they settled for an abandoned warehouse in the suburbs. Short on funds for equipment, Sarah led the team in manual sorting. Once, improper handling caused leaked waste to contaminate nearby land, and she worked with the team for 3 days and nights straight until environmental inspectors deemed it safe. Was it worth it? A classmate asked, exhausted. Sitting on the ground, making money with the system was so much easier. Wiping sweat from her brow, Sarah watched as her father rode up on a tricycle, delivering lunch, steam still rising from the buns her mother had made. Look, she said with a smile, pointing, this is what's real. The company gradually gained traction. Their waste processing technology earned a patent, and they secured contracts with several major manufacturers. At an industry summit, Sarah ran into Leo, the rich kid from years ago. He raised an eyebrow in surprise as he read her business card. You're the Sarah who turned a scrapyard into a company on the verge of going public. Not public yet, she laughed, noticing the ordinary digital watch on his wrist, a far cry from the boy who once flaunted his family's gold mine. She later learned his family's mine had been shut down for environmental violations, and they were now pivoting to renewable energy. I used to think gold was the most valuable thing, Leo said, clinking his glass against hers. Now I realize the ability to work hard and do things right is worth more than any treasure. Sarah thought of Mia. She had later heard from the police that a diary was found in her sister's room. The last page read, if I could start over, I'd want to solve a math problem properly. The handwriting was obscured by golden flecks, the original strokes barely visible. On the day the company went public, Sarah returned to the old neighborhood. My parents' breakfast stall was still there, just replaced with a clean food truck. My mother held her hand and pointed to the newly built community center nearby. It was built with the money you donated. There's even a calligraphy class inside. I know you'd like that. She stood at the entrance of the center, watching children practice calligraphy and read books inside. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting golden rays on the floor, where dust motes danced in the light. Her phone buzzed with a text from Professor Lee at the Research Institute. New progress on the meteorite fragment study. Come visit when you're free. Sarah smiled and replied with a simple, okay. She raised her hand, noticing a faint callus on her palm, a mark left by years of gripping tools. These hands held no magic to turn stone into gold, yet they could create something far more enduring. Passing the jewelry store at the street corner, she instinctively glanced at the display window. The gold inside still glittered, but it no longer stirred anything in her heart, because she finally understood. The real alchemy was never some system. It was her mother waking at 5 in the morning to knead dough, her father patrolling late into the night, the lab lights burning till dawn, and countless ordinary moments of living earnestly, step by step. These were life's truest treasures. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.